calling this meeting to order now. And we'll have a roll call if we have the roll available to the interim secretary, Mr. Robert Witherwax. Would you proceed with the roll call?
All right, hold on. This program is opening.
Okay. So while he's pulling up the WebEx to open, I see Mr. Ellis. How are you, Mr. Ellis? Thumbs up. We have shared the minutes from the last full board meeting in June. Are there any? Here's Mr. Witherwax. Let's do the roll call. And then
All right, Kirmany Allison. Oh, and just as we go through this, I'm going to go through an alphabetical order of your last name. Please unmute because I won't be watching the screen. So unmute and say present when I get to your name. Kirmany Allison.
Present.
Andrews.
Present.
Desmond Atkins. Lisa Atkinson.
Here.
Wayne Bailey. Princess Ben James. Julia Boyd. Gail Branch Mohammed. John Buckholtz. Robert Callahan. Hanji Charles. Helen Coley. Nora Daniel. James Ellis.
Present.
Kevin Farley. Andrea Ferris.
Nothing.
I'm sorry, was that a yes from Ms. Ferris?
yes.
Frazier. Drew Gabriel. Tamika Gibbs. Najani Granville.
She's on. I saw her.
Yep.
She's on. Yeah.
Present. Can you hear me?
I have Ms. Granville. Igenie Harris Glenman. Marva Henry.
Present.
Zerzima Jordan. Regina Kinsey. Sarah Lazar.
Present.
Mireille Lemaine. Elaine. Calvis Mickelsteins.
Present.
Robert Puka. Yaya Raji. Adam Sachs.
Present.
Brian Saunders. Janola Soko. Meredith Staten. Carmisha Superville. Audrey Tate Hall. Mark Thurton. Greg Todd.
Okay, Mark Thurton is on.
Mark is here. Mark is here.
Thank you, Mr. Thurton. Mr. Todd.
Yes, Mr. Todd is here.
Tyus.
Present.
Mr. Vicconi.
Present.
Yves Villas. Kimberly Watson. Yrsa Weatherspoon.
Present.
Chair
Rob,
White.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Yes.
Princess Ben James is on.
Thank you. Sharon Wedderburn.
Present.
Robert Witherwax present. Deborah Young.
Present.
Vilma Zuniga. Add Princess. We have.
Oh, did you hear Drew Gabriel's on as well? Well, he was on.
I'm just going to check.
Drew?
Drew
Did he-
Gabriel.
Nora Daniel.
Miss Daniel, one moment. Miss Daniel, thank you. Mr. Gabriel.
Andy Charles? Andy Charles is present.
I have Miss Charles, thank you. Just looking at the list of names. Nobody else I haven't got. All right, we're still a few short. We'll give people time.
Okay, we have 33 count on the call. And based on your count of
We have 22.
22, okay. So from my past 2 or 3 months of watching CBS News in the mornings from 6 to 9, I have to suggest that we talk slower and wait, 20 seconds to hear the response from the people we are communicating with. So we don't have that collision of responses where we think we might have missed something, but we didn't. So it may be counterintuitive, but if we slow down a little bit, it'll make the communications a little bit clearer. Ms. George, we have minutes that went out from our last full board meeting in June.
Yes, and they're also listed on our website.
Are there any comments from members on those minutes, corrections?
Not that I recall receiving at the office, no.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. So,
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to note that Kim Robinson from Councilmember Alika Ampry Samuel is present.
Excellent, thank you.
We also have Darrell White from the New York State Attorney General's office on, and 2 additional board members, Kevin Farley and Gail Branch Muhammad.
Excellent. Okay, so we're up to 24. And we'll call those names again.
That is a quorum. We have 47 members.
Okay,
We're good.
47. Okay,
Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to, through Gabriel, wanted to just make sure. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Gabriel, you're counted. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
all righty. Okay, so moving down the agenda, everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes. We have not received any comments or corrections. I ask for a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Who was that? A second. Who was that?
Saunders.
I can't hear.
That was Baconi, I think.
Made the motion, Mr. Saunders seconded.
Okay, and shall we take a vote on that? No, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, moving on, we'll come back to the census count. That's very, very important. And since we don't have Ms. Worrell with us at this point in time, I don't think, from the census.
No, we have Matthew Pitts though.
Okay, so Mr. Pitt, do you want to make your presentation? Do you need to show your screen?
Yes, I'd like to make my presentation, and yes, I'd like to share my screen.
Okay, so I am going to give you the ball. Matthew, 1 second.
Mr. Pitt, who are you with now? Who are you working with on this?
Campaign Finance Board.
I'm sorry, speak a little louder.
Oh, sorry, Campaign Finance Board.
Okay, Matthew. You can share your screen.
Okay, can everyone see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so my name is Matthew Pitt, as most of you already know. I'm with the New York City Campaign Finance Board, specifically with the voter engagement arm that's also known as NYC Votes. NYC Votes, which I said was the voter engagement arm, is the nonpartisan initiative that's spearheaded by the New York City Campaign Finance Board. And what we do is we more or less engage and inform New Yorkers about elections and voting in New York City. I was invited by Community Board 8 just to go over a few things. Most importantly, registering to vote, updates to election and voting laws that have just been passed recently, and also mail-in voting, as well as a few other things that are also voting related during this time. So for those who are not registered to vote, here on the screen, you'll see the requirements for anyone who would like to register to vote. Requirements are very simple. You have to be a U.S. citizen to register to vote in New York State. You have to be 18 years of age or older to register to vote and vote. If you know someone who is 16 or 17 years old, they can pre-register to vote. All they have to do is just fill out the same voter registration form that everyone else fills out. Once it's being sent to the Board of Elections, it'll be placed on a pending list. And once that person turns 18, they will be a fully registered voter. Additionally, you also have to have a mailing address. The Board of Elections mails out poll site locations, as well as absentee ballots and absentee ballot applications to folks as well. So that's very important that you must have. And additionally, if you've had any changes to your address, your name, or you want to change your political party, you could do the same thing as well with the form. There's roughly 2 ways you can register to vote in New York State. You can do it via paper application, or it can be done online with the DMV. You have to be a customer of the DMV in order to register to vote online using their portal. Additionally, I'm sorry. Yes, you're correct, Julia. Folks who are homeless can register to vote. They just need to make sure that they have an address, a mailing address, and also a place where they can stay, whether that's a shelter. I've also seen a school address being used, family member's home, so on and so forth. When it comes to registering to vote, as I said, there are 2 different ways to do it, paper application or online. The New York State Legislature has just passed a law that also now requires certain state agencies to also automatically register people to vote as well. And if you know someone who is not registered to vote, please let them know that they have to register to vote by October 9th in order to be eligible to vote in November. Now, as I said before, there's been a whole suite of legislation that was passed, and the 3 that I'm going to mention are pretty much the most important as it directly relates to the 2020 election. So right now, voters can request an absentee ballot due to risk of illness. Of course, as you know, the pandemic is still ongoing, and this will allow people to obtain a mail-in ballot. Additionally, you can also request a mail-in ballot, and it will come to you immediately instead of 30 days before an election. Prior to this, 32 days before an election, the Board of Elections will send out ballots to folks who put in an absentee request. That's only because by that time, they should already know who will be on the ballot. The state legislature has relaxed that requirement. Also, ballots that or rather I should say, there's a new legislation that allows ballots to be counted if postmarked on or before Election Day, November 3rd, and received by the Board of Elections 7 days after the elections, with or without a postmark. That was a very contentious issue that occurred during the last election as well. But the Board of Elections will count it if it is received in the 7 days that came after the election. So by November 10th, if they have received it, they will count it. Now, for folks who are a bit more curious about absentee voting, remember you can always fill out an application. This time it's now been made easier. You can do it online at www.nycabsentee.com. Just make sure that you check the box for temporary illness. on the application. And starting, I believe, yesterday, for folks who did make the request, it can also now be tracked on the Board of Elections website. And just to remind you all, October 27th is the deadline to request an absentee ballot by mail. Now, once you put in the request, we always ask voters to check your mailbox frequently for the ballot. You never really know when it's going to come. Unfortunately, they don't track it when it's going to you. However, once you do receive it, please follow the instructions carefully. Please make sure to fill it out with a blue or black ink pen. The instructions are very serious. If you deviate from the instructions, they have a tendency to throw out your ballot or invalidate. So please follow the instructions very, very carefully. If they say fill it out in blue or black ink, please do that. Make sure it's mailed back in the posted paid envelope it came with. And additionally, please make sure to sign the back of the envelope as instructed. And if you are going to send it back in the mail, please make sure you do it by November 2nd. And that's it. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sorry, let me try to.
Okay, so we're back to, there you
Okay.
go.
Sorry
Hi,
about that.
no problem. Yeah, I have a question. I've heard mixed things about taking in the mail-in ballots for maybe the elderly, who might not be able to take it in, and what people's concerns around the mail. So I wanted to know, what is the ruling around that? Can you take someone else's sealed after they've completed it and sealed the envelope and take it down to the Board of Elections, or can you not do that?
That's a question we've posed to the Board of Elections ourselves, and quite honestly, we've got some mixed responses to that. It seems as if they're not too sure as well on their end whether or not that's okay.
Okay.
If that is the case, I would suggest that there is a provision for emergency ballots in the case where, you do have folks who are in the hospital and cannot turn in a ballot.
Right.
So what some hospital workers or some nurses do is when we also tell them that they should also have the person write down on a piece of paper that the person who's turning in the ballot is a representative of that person, and also have that the voter sign it as well, just to make sure everything is good.
I am really familiar with that process. I guess I'm concerned about those who want to vote and want to make sure that their vote is counted, but cannot get out, and how we can be helpful to the handicapped and the elderly in the community with making sure that their ballot is in. So maybe that's something that could be pushed a little further to get a answer for those in the community who want to be helpful.
Definitely.
Just a thought. Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Tara Lazar. I had a question. I put it in the chat as well, but I had heard from some people that part of the issues with the primary election and that postmarking issue was some confusion about whether post offices needed to whether they needed to postmark these ballots, because there were a lot of ballots that did indeed go through the post office in order to arrive at the destination, but they didn't have postmarks. And I think there might have been some confusion at the post office about how they were supposed to handle these ballots. Has the Board of Elections maybe reached out to the post office, or did did I mishear what the issue was back then?
That was part of the issue. As to whether or not the Board of Elections actually spoke with the post office, I do not know. I'm not sure. The state legislature has asked the post office to come in for a hearing to explain some of the issues, but of course they declined. So the state legislature has, as I mentioned earlier, passed a provision to sort of relax that problem when it comes to postage paid envelopes, because that was the real issue. Like some folks they got the envelope, but they weren't sure if they had to put a postage on it or not. So it sort of like just became this huge issue that sort of spiraled out of control. So hopefully with the new laws passed by the state legislature, it somewhat, addresses the problem, but hopefully it does. But we won't know until November, unfortunately.
Oh, boy. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ellis had a question?
Hey, Matt, good to see you again. It's been a bit. Question about the announcement of the Barclays Center being a polling location. I don't know if you have much information about that, but is that going to be a general polling location, or is that going to be specific to our community districts and those that are voting nearby?
As far as I've heard, that is supposed to be a general poll site, and that's all that we've heard. I do know that the folks at the we're working with the Brooklyn Nets are working outside of that to make sure that they engage with voters in any kind of way possible. But for now, as far as I know, Barclays Center is a general poll site.
It's just a general location.
I'm going to ask everyone to put all of their questions in the chat because we have someone that was just completely skipped over. So if you could do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Stephanie Zimmerman.
Sorry, Irsa, one
Excuse
second
me.
before you get. Sorry, Irsa, just a couple other points on that. I mean, there's a Q&A section, there's a chat section, and there's also the raise your hand function. So if you want to clarify which way you would like for people to put in their questions and which section, that way we're able to follow along.
The chat section.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question in the chat.
Okay, so right now, Stephanie Zinnerman has asked if you are the proxy for the person, you can turn it in on their behalf. So that's something she mentioned. And on the bottom of the absentee ballot application, they can designate a proxy who will be authorized to turn in their ballot.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Are we going down the list?
Ethel, you said you had a question?
Yeah, I put it in the chat, then we go back. Is there, I heard on the news that there would be drop boxes at the polling places to receive mail-in ballots. Is that accurate?
I've heard the same thing too.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
Okay, okay. When I voted in the primary, I used the mail-in ballot, and I wrote it back a couple of weeks later and asked if it had been received. I never got anything back. Should I expect to ever get anything back?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
To confirm that my mail-in ballot was received.
Don't expect to. So prior to them instituting a absentee ballot tracking system, the only way you knew that they had your ballot is if you made a mistake on the ballot. They'll send you back a letter saying you made a mistake. We didn't count your vote. That was the only way you knew.
That's something.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you didn't make a mistake, or at least you thought you didn't make a mistake, and you didn't hear back from them, then you assume that they had your ballot.
Okay. Lastly, I would like to, though you're taking on President Trump's request to have, or suggestion that everybody vote twice.
Please do not do that. That is illegal.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pitt, we have a question from Gail Mohammed. Has the mail-in ballot signature on the envelope been highlighted?
Signature been highlighted?
Yes.
Oh, you mean like the actual box itself where it says to sign? Is that like visible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does
Okay.
anyone have any more questions? I don't see any questions registered.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, I have to thank Mr. Pitt for bringing this information forward. Do you have a website address you could share in the chat for people to
Yes.
get any additional information or to get other information, to get a reaffirmation of, deeper explanation of what you've explained this evening?
Yep. I will put it in the chat right now.
Okay, thank you so much. And we really appreciate you doing this. It's very important for people to exercise the vote. So I hope everyone here will tell their neighbors and their voting age children, relatives to do that. Thanks again, and hope to see you at our next meeting, our regular meetings. Come on back. Okay, so we'll move on to Ms. Shelley Worrell from the Census Bureau, I believe. She's going to give us an update on Census 2020.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. I had called in earlier from a phone and I was trying to check in. I've been on the call since 6:15, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone was able to hear me clearly. So thank you so much to Michelle and Community Board 8 for inviting us. We are literally just a few weeks out from wrapping up the entire operation. So I just wanted to start with the metrics. I wanted to start with the numbers of where we are and just give you a snapshot of not only Brooklyn, but New York City, New York State, and national. So I'll start with the national numbers. As of yesterday, we were at 65%. New York State was at 62%. New York City is at 62%, and Brooklyn, I am really sad to report, as someone who is a Brooklyn native, I was born, raised, and still reside in Brooklyn, and we're at 55%. So it's very, very low compared to the rest of the city, as well as the state and the country. The last date to complete the census is September 30th. The timeline was moved forward a few months ago, and I just want to remind everyone of why the census is important. Number one, it determines the number of seats in the House of Representatives. It defines congressional and state legislative districts, school districts, and voting precincts. So we just had a presentation on voting. So the two most important things I think as persons residing in the United States can do right now are vote and do their census. The big difference about the census and voting is you do not have to be a U.S. citizen to complete your census. And in fact, the census is an exercise of counting every living person in the United States, regardless of their immigrant status. And of course, you may remember from previous presentations that I made that the census, there are two populations that are amongst the most undercounted. Number one are children under the age of 5. So when we think about our schools not having the appropriate resources, it's often because those children were not counted. And the second most undercounted community is Black men, 18 to 29. And that includes African American, Afro Caribbean, Afro Latino, and African. So very important to just understand how critically important it is to count everyone in your household, regardless of their immigrant status. And this is unlike the election. You do not have to be a United States citizen. And of course, we're not only counting people that are 18 and above, we're counting everyone. It also determines the allocation of hundreds of billions of dollars in federal funding. They're critical programs, especially in times like now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Medicaid, SNAP, Section 8, housing, special ed, grants, Title I grants. So Title I grants are our schools, our parks are funded by that. National School Lunch Program, WIC, Head Start, foster care and healthcare programs, as well as senior programs as well. I don't want to leave out the seniors. And then of course it provides insights to government, business and community planning groups for planning purposes. And then the other thing it does, it provides benchmarks for all of the other surveys that we conduct, including the census of small businesses, and there are a number of other surveys that we conduct when we're not doing the decennial. The other thing to note is that the census is easy, safe, and important. We have been very actively engaged in mobile units around the entire country. So yesterday I was at one at the Flatbush Nostrand Junction, where we were on site enumerating the community. So if you all know of any sites that are highly trafficked, like the Flatbush Junction, like Barclay Center, a community center, mobile food units or pantries and those kinds of things, please feel free to reach out to me. I can drop my email again in the chat, and we can actually send census staff there. Most of us, I would say 99% of census employees, including myself, are wrapping up on September 25th. So you have us from now until then.
Did we lose her? Hello?
This data so that people, especially in immigrant communities, hard to count communities, we're not collecting this data to track people, right? It's really more, how can we allocate the appropriate resources in the community? Another thing that I talk about very often in my presentations, I've been doing this for 2 years now, is that the census has been conducted every 10 years since 1790. So when you put it in historical context, then I think that starts to sort of like break down the barriers a bit. Because a lot of people are, really concerned about us sharing information with other government agencies or courts, and that's really not what the exercise is about. And we as census employees, everyone from the enumerators up until the most senior person, we are all sworn to oath for life. So in violating that, we'll be subject to either a prison sentence and or a very hefty fine of $250,000. I did earlier drop the URL in the chat. So it's my20census.gov. Please, everyone, share it with your neighbors, on your social media, your newsletters, just far and wide. We just need everyone to know that they can respond in 4 ways: online, by phone, paper, or, of course, the last resort, and we're in that operation right now, is that if you do not complete your form, then you'll receive a visit from a Census Bureau employee. We're not asking for social security numbers. We're not asking for money. This is also a nonpartisan operation. So this has nothing to do with politics or the election. And we also don't ask for any financial institution information. So I'm going to leave it there, but I'm here if anyone has any questions.
I have a question, if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm aware that census takers, are not allowed to divulge information to, to government agencies, et cetera. So, for example, being undocumented doesn't have to be a concern. I was wondering, you know, I'm guessing yes, but maybe you can just confirm. So for example, if somebody were living in public housing and they maybe had somebody living in the apartment who technically wasn't supposed to, would they be risking anything by reporting that person as living with them to the census?
No, they would not.
Okay.
And they should be, because eventually that person may be looking for other resources. So they may be looking for SNAP or healthcare resources, right? They may have a child or become a senior. So it's really important that we capture this information so that we can make sure that that community has the appropriate resources.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I've noticed. First, I commend you guys. Census work is quite a bit in the area, but what I did notice is that the information that they have may not be accurate at the locations where that may have 2 apartments or 3, and then their records is identified as 4 or 5. That's what I did notice, that they're having the database is not up to date to what's going on in a specific building. That's what I did notice when they did come through my block.
Got it. And that happened to me. So the thing about the census, the very first exercise that we undertake is called, oh my gosh, it's been so long now. It's called, it's called like ADCAN, address canvassing. And what that is we have a team of geographers. I actually was very fortunate where I trained with one of the census geographers who have their degrees in geography, and I love maps and travel. So I was actually really intrigued by that whole piece of it. But we do receive, their whole job is to try to identify every household in the United States. We know, as people who live in Brooklyn, as I mentioned, I'm a Brooklyn native, and we know that, the housing is changing, by the minute, if not by the nanosecond. So it could be that sometimes those addresses have not been updated. I myself live in a private home that has a second unit, and I was enumerated, even though one of my neighbors came to my house to enumerate me, and I was very surprised, because I was like, oh, I've completed this on the first or second day of that we were able to self-respond, but it was just the way my house was set up in the system. So it could just be that there's some kind of sort of not perfect way. There are many private homes that have multiple apartments, or they have been converted from 2 to 4, or we know about, townhomes, let's say, and how, they were once 1 or 2 family homes, and now they may be 8 family homes or 4 family homes. So it could just be that those, and there are a lot of SROs as well in New York City. So it just could be that those addresses were not updated accordingly. Or we know as well that there are a lot of homes that are coming down that may be 1 to let's say 3 family homes that are becoming 80-unit buildings, right? Or, multiple apartments. So it's not perfect, but we are gathering that information from a number of places. And one of the big challenges that we have right now is accessing some of the buildings.
Thank you. We have some questions in the chat as
Ms.
well.
Farrell?
Okay.
Ms. Farrell, excuse me, please. This is Irsa. I ask again for everyone to please not blurt out. There's 40 people online here, at least. Please put your question in the chat box if people are being looked over. So please adhere to that request. We have a question. The first question here, there's several. One, would it be possible to send census staff to Sterling Place between Brooklyn and New York this Saturday between 11 and 5?
If someone can send me the email, I can certainly try to ask. I know that there are a number of things going. I myself have at least 4 events happening on Saturday, and we are already challenged with meeting some of the needs of those staff. But if you have other dates and times, like alternatives, if you for some reason cannot get there at that day and time, that could be very helpful. But I would need the address. I would need a contact person if there's an affiliated organization,
Okay.
and then all of the possible dates that we can come out. So I can
Okay.
also drop my email in the chat. But I personally know that I've requested a number of mobile census takers. They're called CRRs for events on Saturday. And in some cases, I've requested 4 and we're receiving less because there's just not enough people. And, you know, there's a part of the operation that is understaffed, which is the field. So we're still actively recruiting. As you can imagine with Corona, you know, a lot of things have shifted. People, you know, things are just moving around.
Yes, understood. If you could drop your email in the chat, that would be
Sure.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Also, thank you. Also, Shelley, seniors and legacy homeowners are receiving repeat visits from the enumerators. Will the Census Department send a reminder to homeowners to report these units as vacant so that those units do not remain underreported?
Vacant units should be counted as 0. So if they're just vacant, you know, if it's like a private home and you have like an empty apartment, or you're a landlord and you know those units should be marked as 0, otherwise they will be enumerated. So a great example of that are people who have second homes, right? So they live in New York, but they are quarantined in the Catskills or down by the Jersey Shore or wherever in the Hamptons. If they have not enumerated in their New York City residence, that property will be enumerated. You know, census takers will continue to come to that property. So I know that it's sort of like an edge case, but I'm just trying to give you the best illustrative example. So vacant units or people who are not if they have multiple homes, you need to mark that as 0 if you can, right? Otherwise they'll be enumerated because the assumption is that people are living in every unit in the United States.
Okay, thank you for that. I have another question here. How many representatives will Brooklyn lose if our count isn't correct?
That's hard to say, but I can say that in 2010 and in 2000, we lost 2 congressional seats, so 4 in total, 2 each. And also, you know, lines were redrawn.
Okay. Do you know approximately how much money our communities are missing out by not filling out the census?
Well, right now it's 45%. So let's make an assumption that it's $100 million a year. Okay, that's not the number, but I'm just going to give you a very basic exercise. So if we were going to get $100 million a year, let's make it bigger. People from New York love money, so let's make it $100 billion per year, right? And Brooklyn's share of that was 10 billion, right? We would only receive 55% of that because we would only receive the resources based on the count. And of course, my understanding is I'm not a professional in statistics, but you know, they have people who are experts in statistics who will make some other, you know, assumptions about a community, about a tract, about a city. But still, I mean, you want to be closest to 100, right? Like we don't want any trial and error, like people making assumptions about who lives where, what the needs of the community are. That's how we end up with schools that are under-resourced, senior centers that are under-resourced, like the lack of hospital beds, which is a real issue and has been a real issue in Brooklyn, right? Particularly in central Brooklyn, especially, and East Brooklyn, I mean, all of New York, effectively, but all of that data is determined by census data.
Thank you. Ms. Zinnerman, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself and follow up with your question on the vacant unit.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Shelley. How are you? This is Stephanie Zinnerman. So we've
Hi,
been,
Stephanie.
how you doing? So we've been getting a number of calls from seniors and other legacy homeowners who didn't realize that when they received 3 separate census forms, they should have completed them all to say that those units was 0. So that's the reason why they're getting the repeat visits from the enumerators, because they're still looking for people in those units. They assumed, like a lot of people did, because they filled out the form, that they were done and there was no reason why
Right.
the enumerators were returning. So my question was, is the Census Department going to put out a notification to them, or maybe even put something on the website? I know we've been doing our due diligence by giving them that information, but I think if you guys put something out to just remind people that that is something that they need to do, so that those units don't impact our greater numbers and go unreported.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly send me the request, or I know you work very closely with James Tillman, my colleague. So you can send it to myself or James, and then we could see if we can share that with National. But right now we're in peak field operations, so of course there are no guarantees.
Ms. Tyus, I think we have one last question from Ms. Muhammad. She wants to know which areas in Brooklyn have been undercounted.
I mean, there are a number of hard to count communities. They tend to be Black and Brown communities. There is a fantastic map. I mean, Census.gov has one, but there's another one called Hard to Count. I was just talking about it. I'm working with Lyft, who is one of my partners, Lyft, the car service. And we were just talking about this map today. Hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can find it so I can share it with you. I really like this one a lot. This is one of my favorite census maps.
Going to share your screen?
No, I'm going to drop the link in the chat so you can have it. I'm on mobile right now because I was in transit from another email.
Got it.
I'm sorry, another meeting. Excuse me. I just sent it to you all. Did you see it?
Yes.
So from here, you see the national response rate. You can see, you can just hone in. You can put in Brooklyn, right? And then from there, the very dark burgundy are the hardest to count. So if you put in you could put in zip code, or you could put in the county. I usually do it by county. To zoom in, everyone.
Yes, we'll send the email out tomorrow with this information.
Okay. And then, yeah, I just think it's very user friendly, and it gives you like a very like sort of in your face, in the moment what's going on. But of course, we at the census also have a resource.
Any more questions in the chat?
There are no questions registered at this time.
I had one that was in the chat, but I think it just got lost. But my question was that, so since April 1st, which is, the day that the census question is asking about, a lot of tenants have moved, either just temporarily or permanently since then. And I was wondering if landlords are under any sort of obligation to forward the census request to their former tenants who are no longer present in the unit. If that makes
No,
sense.
they're not. No, it does make sense, but no, they're not. I mean, and they should, regardless if they moved. I mean, technically, they would have maybe put in a change of address form or forwarding via USPS, and as well as in their new home, they should have received some type of mailer, right? By now, because every household would have received a mailer.
Right.
if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
Thank
if I
you.
move from apartment, like from, I don't know, Park Place to Flatbush Avenue, like, one Flatbush Avenue, that one Flatbush Avenue unit, whether it's a house or a apartment, every every apartment in the United States, the assumption is everyone's receiving some type of mailer, right? By now, and reminder notifications, and while it may not be in that person's name yet,
I guess, but if they get a mailer at their new place, are they able to respond on behalf of their previous home where they actually were on April 1st, for example?
if they, it's where you live on, right? So
Okay.
if you,
I thought that people were supposed to answer based on where they are on April 1st. Sorry, I must have just completely misheard it, and I'm so sorry about this, but
completed a enumerate or complete your thing, then you complete it based on where you live now.
oh, interesting. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Because you would, I mean, that's where you're living for the next 10 years, right? So why would you want to based on where you lived before if you live in a totally different state? Like if you move from New York, from Brooklyn to the Bronx, you and your family where you live now, right?
Yeah. Theoretically, it's just so many people left temporarily, and I want all that money to come here. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you very
in,
much.
in those cases, they should be enumerated. And like you're just doing that temporarily, and that's your second home. Then I would say that you should have enumerated in York. The thing is like where you live most of the time. Like that's really the directional guidance. It's not where as of April 1st, it's where you live most of the time. So if you have moved, and you're going to be living most of responding from similarly, to have more than one property, then you should, send the resources to where you're going to live most of the time. So if you're upstate but you live mostly downstate, then you should be enumerating here and marking the upstate property as 0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Weatherspoon, anybody else waiting?
No one else, Ms. Tyus.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Worrell. This census is going to close on September 30th? Is
That's
that what you
correct.
said earlier?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Any late filings or late submissions accepted?
No. And I talked about that in a presentation I did earlier this week, where I very early on during my tenure at the census, and I started it very early. I started in 2018, so I saw the entire operation. There was a meeting at your adjacent community board 9 where it was like, well, can we query government or can we do late submissions? Or no late submissions allowed. Once it wraps up, the numbers are rolled up, whatever that hard date is, which right now is September 30th. The numbers are all aggregated, and then the first apportionment goes to the president, and then the redistricting happens, and then after that, it goes to the American people.
Okay, my recollection is that the deadline to close was pushed up.
It was October 30th, and it was pushed up to September 30th.
Okay, because of, it would seem as though an extension would be warranted because of the current virus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you know why the census period is going to close early?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for your presentation this evening. It's been very informative and helpful.
I don't know their names that we hear. You're welcome. You're welcome. And as I mentioned, I left an email. Michelle has all of my contact information. So if anyone would like us to smile, I think my most important thing to do, or if you don't have to, then please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have committee reports next on our full board meeting agenda. And we'll try to take them in order, starting with the bylaws committee.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Guess what? We have some revisions to the bylaws that are going to be coming up in the next couple months. So I want to say a few words about process, then I'm going to say a few words about what the changes are. So process to amend our bylaws is a fairly onerous process. We have to present the changes to 2 consecutive regular meetings of the full board. We have to present them. So we're going to present them in October. We're going to present them again in November. And then we have to vote at the 3rd consecutive meeting. So we'll vote in December. We will include the full text of the proposed amendments in the notice of each of those meetings. So September, October, November, and December. We'll discuss them during the meetings. We'll discuss them between the meetings. But when December runs around, we're going to put a motion on the floor to accept or reject either the changes as a whole, or we may choose to divide them up and accept them piece by piece. We will see what happens. So keep your ears peeled for more words on that. So what are the changes? Well, roughly, we're making lots of little housekeeping changes. Nothing huge, nothing that's going to rework the way we do business as a board, but things that kind of either reflect how we actually do business that may have deviated from the bylaws, or things that kind of clean up some areas of confusion or some areas of conflict. So 5 rough areas. Membership. We're including language, default languages for leaves of absence. If you're a member of the board and you need to, say, take a class for a semester that meets on the 2nd Thursday of every month and you have an irredeemable conflict, we're going to put language in there that sets a standard for when leaves of absence are granted or withheld. Notice requirements. If you cannot make a given meeting and you tell somebody a given period of time ahead of time, you'll be marked excused from that meeting, and it will not count as an absence. When we tally up our attendance statistics at the end of a given year, we look to see how well our members did with attendance at their obligations. Presences and excuses will count in your favor, absences will not. So have the good grace to say, I can't make it, and we'll have some language in there about that. If we do need to remove members, we have language in the bylaws that discusses the removal proceeding. One of the elements of that is that there's a 30-day notice provision. We have to give the member 30 days warning that we're going to be serving hearing charges at the next meeting. Since our meeting schedule sometimes they're 28 days apart or 29 days apart between monthly meetings, we're actually shortening that notice provision to 21. So it'll always be from first meeting to the next meeting. You never have to go over to the 3rd meeting. Another area we're making some changes in elections. This one's very pertinent because we're going to have elections coming this upcoming May of 2021, elections for the officers of the board. What if we cannot meet in person? Right now, our bylaws require signed paper ballots and immediate runoffs. So we're putting an escape clause in the elections provisions that permit the nominating committee and the district manager to set alternative rules should they be called for. We're actually also bringing the elections provisions into conformity with what we've done, actually with my job. I should have been elected to be the substitute secretary, but we didn't do that because of COVID. So we're actually formalizing a procedure for filling vacancies when officers either leave the board or are removed from office. On that note, officers, making 3 minor tweaks. We're clarifying the fact that the chair of the board is a non-voting ex officio member of all committees. So the chair is entitled to sit in any committee meeting, participate in any committee meeting, but can only vote in those committee meetings that the chair is a member of those committees. Emeritus, we have established criteria for awarding past board chairs emeritus status. When a retiring board chair who has served at least 2 terms retires, they will be awarded emeritus status for the next board year, and that will entitle them to continue sitting on the executive committee in the ex officio manner. We also have put in more specific definitions for the duties of the vice chairs, the secretary, and the sergeant of arms. They were sort of vague. We've added a few defining characteristics for those. Committees. Vice chairs will be, the criteria for choosing them is changed. We are saying that the vice chairs previously were just chosen by the board chair. The committee chairs and the committee vice chairs were chosen by the board chair. Well, now we're saying that the vice chairs of any given committee must be chosen by the board chair in consultation with, collaboration with the committee chair. We don't want committee chairs and committee vice chairs to not be on the same page. We have language in the bylaws right now that says committees must meet quarterly. People have been a little confused by that, so we're changing it to say 4 times a year at a schedule to be determined and approved by the executive committee, right? At least 4 times a year. Many of our committees meet 10, possibly even 11 times a year. So that's the floor, not the ceiling. We're changing the composition of the executive committee. Currently, it's officers of the board, chairs of committees, and vice chairs of committees. And that's pretty much half the board right there. So we are slowing it down by saying officers and chairs only. No more vice chairs as members of the executive committee. And then we have a few miscellaneous provisions. We're going to clarify the fact that the district manager has authority over the personnel of the board office. Should the district manager need to make personnel decisions, the district manager does not need to consult with the board. The board only has the power over the choice of the district manager. We are making some tie-ins to the bylaws of the Friends of Community Board 8, our nonprofit wing. We're saying that any changes we make to these bylaws will automatically be incorporated into those bylaws. And there is some confusion that came up at our most recent meeting about the way the bylaws refer to the board term or the board year. So we're going to put some language in there that makes it clear that a term refers to a 2-year slot. Every one of us is appointed for 2 years. Officers are elected for 2 years, but a board year runs from September 1 to August 31st. And certain matters are keyed to each of those. So that's a lot, but they're all very small. Cumulatively, they will help us run meetings a little more smoothly, and help us run the board procedures a little more smoothly, and again, set expectations. So I will come back to you in October. I will say pretty much the same thing, but you'll have something in front of you that you can at that point, and we'll do that again in November. And in December, we will vote on these things. So thank you all very much. I would take questions if the chair wants me to, but I would prefer that we just do them offline between now and the next meeting.
I agree with you, Mr. Witherwax, and I thank you for your very summarizing presentation. So we're going to move on through the other committee reports, and I understand Mr. Ellis is going to be next for the SLA and Sidewalk Cafe Review Committee.
Well, Mr. Ellis just passed the ball over to me by text because he wasn't at that meeting and I was actually chairing that one, even though I had absolutely forgotten that fact. So going quickly to I know it was just circulated, the action items for tonight's meeting. We had, as I open them,
5 items.
5 items, all of which were renewals. Bar Ghost, 71 6th Avenue for a full liquor license. Beer and Delis, also at 340 Sterling Place for a beer and cider license. That's at corner of Sterling and Underhill. Chipotle at 347 Flatbush, corner of Park. Tucker Alley, Washington Avenue, just off of Lincoln. And Soda Bar at Vanderbilt Avenue in St. Mark's and Bergen. All 5 were renewals. All 5 have been around for a long time. 4 of the proprietors showed and spoke, and all 5 were approved. no reason not to. Because the meeting was held during our summer hiatus, we technically have authority to pass that on to the SLA on the clock that each of these applicants were on, and we did so, but now tonight we need to ratify those approvals.
Thank you, Mr. Witherwax. I ask our members to put a motion on the floor in support of the committee's recommendation.
Oh, can I do it? I move that we support the committee's recommendation.
I second it.
Thank you, Ms. Lauser, and thank you, Ms. Branch Mohammed. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
Great. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Again, please know when you're coming in the roll and try to unmute yourself ahead of time. I have incorporated a lot of people who came in subsequent to the initial roll call. If you cannot be heard and you need to have your vote registered, text it, put it in the chat, communicate it somehow. We'll tot it all up afterwards.
Mr. Witherwax, please note that Mr. Bailey has joined us.
Yes, I do, and I will go through everyone's name just in case.
Okay, thank you.
Hearmany Allison.
Yes.
Thank you. Linda Andrews.
Yes.
Desmond Atkins. Lisa Atkinson.
Yes.
Thank you. Wayne Bailey. Princess Ben James.
Yes.
Thank you. Julia Boyd. Gail Branch Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you. John Buckholtz. Robert Callahan.
Yes.
Thank you. Anji Charles.
Yes.
Thank you. Helen Coley. Nora Daniel.
She's on.
I know. James Ellis.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Kevin Farley. Andrea Ferris. Fred Frazier. Drew Gabriel.
Yes.
Thank you. Miss Tamika Gibbs. Johnny Granville. Jeannie Harris Blenman. Marva Henry.
Yes.
Thank you. Zerzima Jordan. Gina Kinsey. Sarah Laser.
Yes.
Mireille Lemaine.
Yes.
Thank you. Elaine Mahoney. Thomas Mickelsteins.
Yes.
Thank you. Robert Puka. Yaya Raji.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Sachs.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian Saunders. Janola Soko. Meredith Staten. Carmisha Superville. Audrey Tate Hall. Mark Thurton. Thank you. Greg Todd. Ethel Tias.
Yes.
Thank you. Gibb Vaconi.
Yes.
Thank you. Eves Villas. Kimberly Watson. Yrsa Weatherspoon.
Yes, Robin, and also Nora Daniel said yes.
Thank you. And thank you. Sharon Wedderburn.
Yes.
Robert Witherwax, yes. Deborah Young.
Yes.
The motion passes 23 in favor.
Wait. Excuse me, Rob, I'm sorry.
Nope,
Just
please.
Kimberly Watson. Okay, thanks. Kimberly Watson and Tamika Gibbs voted yes as well.
So that means they're present as well. Watson, Tamika Gibbs. Ms. Granville, I didn't get your vote. She's still with us?
You didn't hear me? Yes.
No, thank you, Ms. Granville. I know Mr. Atkins, Mr. Bailey, Ms. Boyd, Mr. Farley. If they can communicate their votes as well, I know they were present, that would be appreciated. But right
Mr.
now,
Atkins?
I saw him floating around somewhere. All right. The motion passes. We'll have a tally later.
Mr. Farley? Is there? Well, he's.
Mr.
Thank you,
Curtis
Mr.
texted me, voted yes.
Thank you, Mr. Witherwax. As you say, we can revisit the tally by looking at the record after the meeting. There seems to be a delay of some sort and problems with the audio.
Yeah, some people can't unmute, but I thank those who voted in the chat.
Okay. Moving right along. Thank you again, Mr. Witherwax. You've been most helpful. Next up at bat is the Education and Youth Committee. I think that's Ms. Wedderburn. Would you care to give your report, please?
Absolutely. Good evening. Today should have been the first to allow the Department of Education to be able to enable it. If I were queried as how we're doing with the preparedness for return to school, I would say it's mixed results. And the mixed results reflect the levels of preparedness in the 3 districts that we overlay, which are 13, 16, and 17. Some people will say that, we have old schools and that would be to our disadvantage. And I would tell people it is indeed to our advantage. Given the recent complaints about ventilation, it's the newer schools that are really having issues with ventilation. Given that we have old schools, we can open our windows. Also, I was aware of 2 schools that had an interest in having outdoor classrooms, and both schools have elected not to do so. One school in particular was concerned about safety issues, given that there continue to be any number of safety issues surrounding the school. They've had a number of shelter in place in the past. So I'll tell you that the committee will be working on policy this year rather than having an event. Last year, we were all geared up to have our first annual spelling bee, and then COVID hit. So we will make decisions about policy, and that's what we'll be looking at, acute and long term. Acute, we need to render a decision right now or in the near term to help inform other stakeholders of what the community board thinks. Long-term policy in terms of development. So I'm going to close with one very interesting thing that's happened. Have remote learning. So I hope you guys can see this book. Everybody remember this book, right? The Snowy Day. And when you were a child, I know oftentimes people were like, put on their pajamas backwards, flush eyes, pray to the school calendar gods that they could have a school day. Well, one of the things that has come to one's notice is that snow days may have gone the way of the dinosaur, because now that we're all equipped for remote learning, we don't have to stop instruction because of inclement weather. I hope they understand that, playtime is necessary too. But as we said, we'll weigh in on these decisions when it becomes acute and consult with our stakeholders about such matters when in terms of long-term policy. So at this juncture, we are undetermined as to what our next meeting is going to be, because there is some flexibility about setting up meeting times, and we respond to what's going on. I and other members of my committee cannot participate in an update in District 16 because we're on this call tonight, and we'll keep everyone informed via the board office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wedderburn. Any questions from the members? Any questions in the chat that I haven't seen?
No.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the next committee report. That would be Environment, Sanitation, Transportation.
Here I am again. Hello, everybody. Robert Witherwax, the chair of the Environment, Sanitation, and Transportation Committee. We've had a very busy summer for streets in Community Board 8. I know I spoke about this once or twice, but we've had several very successful examples of open streets where the city, Department of Transportation, the NYPD, in partnership with local block associations and other groups, have closed off streets to through traffic and gave the community, especially during the early part of the summer when playgrounds and parks were still closed, gave the community more elbow room to get out and about and stretch their legs. And it's been great. And it was a wonderful success that I feel is probably coming to the end of its rope. As to Ms. Wedderburn's comments, as school goes back and kids are going to have more focus to their daytime. But I've loved being in Brooklyn during this time. We also have on the open streets front, Vanderbilt Avenue, at least in our district, for open streets restaurants. And this will sort of cast ahead to what Mr. Ellis may be talking about in a few, about Mr. Saunders, about economic development and the livelihood. But I bring it all up because it's all very intertwined, right? The way we use our streets, the way we use our parks, the way we use our businesses, it's all of a network. And we want to keep it all healthy and all working together. We're up in the air at the moment as to whether the ESD committee is going to have a September meeting. We will let the board office know shortly. My inclination is to do it probably in October, let the dust settle a little bit, but we will we'll let you guys know. And we don't anticipate it being face-to-face either. It will be one of these arrays that we'll all join in, but we'll look forward to setting a good agenda for planning for the winter and the spring and dealing with what comes our way. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Witherwax. Are there any questions on the report? Ms. Wedderburn, Ms. Witherspoon, any questions on that report? I don't believe there are any questions on the report for environment, sanitation, and transportation. We'll move on to housing. Is there a report from the Housing Committee?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Okay, you went off again. Put your microphone on. Okay, there you go.
I just want to let you know, you can still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am going to be speaking to my committee because we are going to try and do an October meeting. And I'm not sure if we would be able to actually do the workshop that we have wanted to do last year. It would be something different using an online platform. So I'm not sure how doable it will be, but we will discuss it. And we definitely will be meeting in October, probably the second Wednesday of the month. And I will set that up with Ms. George and with Julia. So I look forward to some very, very stimulating discussions. And I hope that the new board members will consider coming out because our committee will be dealing with the rights of tenants. And that's a very important thing right now. And I understand, I'm not sure if the council person and the mayor were able to delay the lien sale. I had heard that they did, but I'm not sure about that. There was some talk about them doing that because of the pandemic.
Hi, Ms. Greenbelt. This is Arno Lipkin. I just want to say, as far as, I mean, the lien sale has been delayed since July. And from at this point, the lien sale, I believe, is somewhere at the end of September. Sorry, I don't know the exact date. Someone else may know, but as far as I know, it's been delayed till the end of September so far.
Okay, thank
The
you.
lien sale has been delayed until September 25th.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
You're done. Thank you very much, Ms. Granville. Are there any questions for Ms. Granville on housing? Ms. Witherspoon, any housing questions?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll do a report for, sorry, go ahead.
Pearson's power failed, but there was just a correction on education. So the 8th was the first day for the staff, not the student.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, for land use, I'm sorry, are you done, Ms. Granville?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your report. Okay, moving on to land use. The meeting for the Land Use Committee in July was problematic. A major proposal for a proposal for a major development in the Crown Heights North Historic District was on the calendar, but the proponent did not submit the information for the presentation until 2.5 hours before the meeting. So we asked them to come back in September, and this project is called 959 Sterling Partners LLC. And they are scheduled to come back in October. We originally had them laid over to September, and they have asked to come back in October to land use and then to the full board meeting. In August, the Land Use Committee worked with the Department of City Planning to revisit for the third or fourth time the concept of public realm improvements for the M-Crown neighborhood rezoning. And so we will do that again in November. And for the September meeting of land use, it was sort of a celebratory short session to point out that CB8 has done a landmark achievement of using a community benefits agreement to work with a developer to add aspects to its planned construction of a building in the proposed rezoning area that would serve the community's vision of what should be happening there until such time as we can get DCP to complete the neighborhood rezoning. So that was for the Grand Pacific ULURP action, which passed the council earlier this month. And I believe the mayor is signing off on it. So that's a done deal. And we'll go forward with that concept of using community benefits agreements to tailor construction and projects in this community district. So we have to ask. If we don't ask, we won't get. So that's a short report for land use. We normally meet as a committee over the summer because of the fact that we see landmarks items, which Landmarks Preservation Commission will not hold their agenda because we're off over the summer. So the Land Use Committee will meet during July and August regularly. And that's what we'll do from that point forward. We have the next committee coming. Are there questions on land use? Anything in the chat on land use?
There's one question from Sarah Lazar. Have we heard anything further from DCP, the city, about funding the M-Crown zoning?
No, they're expecting budget cuts, and they're saying definitely they don't have the $1.5 million to do the environmental impact study that it would require to move ahead with the neighborhood rezoning. So the back part of that, the back half of that statement is that they will entertain private rezoning applications. So we will have to stand up to that and bring pressure on any applicants that want to come through during this time. The applicants may be under the same kinds of financial pressures that everybody else has. The revenue streams have dried up. Nobody's working. This is sort of like a citywide susu. Nobody has money to be passing over to the next person. So yes, there's no funding for the M-Crown rezoning, but we need to take this time to look at public realm improvements that we would want to happen there. And I will be recirculating a nice PowerPoint summary that was done by Brian Paul from the council's land use committee with the help of Chief of Staff Tasha Young for Majority Leader Cumbo's office. And take a close look at that. I've done one. Gib Ficoni has done one. We can recirculate all of those again to try to jiggle everybody's thought processes on what they would like to see if we can get this done. And the reason why we revisit it, because the concept of public realm improvements for neighborhood rezoning encompasses a half a mile circumference around the study area. So you'll see that mapping again over the next week. We'll send that out again. Any other questions I'm missing?
No, no more. That's it.
Okay, resend PowerPoint. Okay, next one up is parks.
Yes, this is Glenda Andrews. We did not have a meeting in September. Our first meeting will be October 6th, the first Tuesday of the month, on the virtual meeting. But I just wanted to mention that Ms. Thais and myself and maybe a few other members of the community board will be meeting with the Ralph Lincoln Community Garden representative on September the 19th. They want to restore that garden. If you can remember, Mr. Robert Matthews is the one who originally started that garden along with the community. So they want to have a conversation to see what they can do to restore the garden. And they want to eventually honor Mr. Matthews during the restoration of the garden. So that's going to be on the 19th at 1654 St. John's Place and at 11 o'clock. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Any questions? Any questions
so far?
Chat? Okay, thank you, Ms. Weatherspoon. Okay, we have two more. Public Safety Committee report, please.
Good day. This is Mark Thurton from Public Safety. We are going to be having meetings for every month from September into June. We're not going to have a meeting for the month of December. Our next meeting will be done on Monday, September the 28th. That's Monday, September the 28th. It'll be at 6:30, but we'll verify the time. We'll have the community board send out the invite to everyone to participate. As you guys know, we've had a rough summer with all increased gun violence, and unfortunately, our community, our 77th precinct, had an increase in shootings and in murders. So that's something that we'll see how we can address that with our deputy inspector. And also during the summer, we had quite a bit of changes in the laws that's going on. So we'll have him review the changes that was done and the impact with the community and with the police department. Over the summer, we had NCO, they reestablished the summer meetings. It was done for the month of August. Each sector had their sector meetings. It was done outdoors. As of right now, I didn't receive any notification how they're going to proceed due to the COVID, if it's going to be done outdoors or if they're going to be able to do an indoor location. So once we get that information, we'll definitely send it out. To the new members, thank you guys who wants to participate in public safety. We definitely need more members, so we're my thanks go out to you, and hopefully you'll participate. And since it's virtual, we have more flexibility. We can have more people participate. We can have more people address their concerns or listen to the actions that's being done for our community, and voice our concerns with the 77th precinct, and also to our elected officials to see what's needed to be done to make our community safer. As I mentioned, again, the next meeting will be on Monday, September the 28th, and that's going to be at 6:30. And the community board will send out the invites. And I think that's about it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Ms. Weatherspoon, any questions in the chat for Mr. Thornton?
No, no questions.
Okay, I think we lost our incoming state senator, Mr. Brisport. Are you still with us?
We have the seniors committee first. Seniors committee's up next.
Okay, we can do that. I'm just checking.
No, he said he can hold on.
Okay.
All right, good evening. This is Gail Muhammad, the chair of the Seniors Committee. Seniors Committee met on September 2nd. Again, it's very different because we're not able to meet in person. So I spoke with Michelle and we talked about conference call, and it worked out very well, I think, for the first meeting. We had approximately 10 seniors that came on board. We talked about COVID, and it was really like a wellness check-in to see how the seniors were doing and how they made out over the time of the pandemic and being in homes alone, and make sure that they weren't completely isolated. We talked about the crime. They were concerned about the crime. One of the seniors wanted to talk about Black Lives Matter and the importance of it. And again, they also were concerned about Black Lives Matter. However, they were concerned about the Black on Black crime in our communities. We talked about our future meetings. The next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 2nd. We will do the phone. We will have our meeting over the telephone. We will continue to invite guest speakers. If anybody on the committee has any ideas of something that we can do to help make our meetings meaningful to the seniors, we welcome your input. So again, thank you. We look forward to your participation. We did have one of the new community board members that participated in our last meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. Are there any questions for Ms. Muhammad on the seniors committee work?
No questions.
Okay, that was very, very helpful. I thank you and Mr. Thurton and for announcing your dates for upcoming committee meetings. And I hope that the office will get a schedule from those committees that have not announced their meeting schedule. Now we have with us, I'm just checking my list here. We have with us Stephanie Zinnerman, I believe, elected reps. Let me start with Darrell White from the AG's office. Mr. White, please come in and make a statement.
Ms. Kaiser, first we're gonna go to Mr. Jabari Brisport because he has 8 o'clock really quickly.
Okay, we could do that. Not a problem. I'm just looking at the numbers of the people in the list that I got. Thank you. Mr. Brisport, please.
Okay, so I'm just seeing if everybody can hear me. Okay, so I just want to say hello, everybody. Community Board 8, thank you all for being on the call tonight. I appreciate the updates and I appreciate you taking time for your civic engagement. I want to introduce myself and say a quick hi, hello, my name is Jabari Brisport. I'm the incoming state senator starting in January in Senate District 25. I'm taking over after Dominic Montgomery retires at the end of this year. I'm a public school teacher in Crown Heights right now, and I'm still teaching through December. But as we get our office set up and everything and get our office infrastructure set up, I still want to make sure that I'm available as a community resource and help anybody with what they need in the time being. So I put my Contact information in the chat. It's a generic campaign, contact@jabariforstatesenate.com. That is for the word for, not the number for, contact@jabariforstatesenate.com. Any and all things that you need help with, we'll do our best to put you with the appropriate resources. And if you want to get involved with the campaign, we are helping out with census stuff throughout the rest of the month. We know it's very important. And let's go, Brooklyn. I want to be #1 in New York City. And you'll be working on helping out with some upstate Senate campaigns in October to fight for a veto-proof majority in the New York State Senate. I want to thank you all again. Any questions, reach out to that email address, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have your email address in the chat and so on. Okay, I see that. Thank you. This is good. Okay. All right. Next up at bat is, who's next, Ms. George?
I sent you the list.
Okay, I have Darrell White next. Is that okay? Mr. White, are you with us? Mr. Darrell White from the State AG's office?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair, but I can yield to the Democratic Assembly designee in the 56, Stephanie Zimmerman, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Ms. Zimmerman, please let us know your thoughts this evening.
Okay, she's unmuted. Okay. Thank you, Darrell, for yielding the floor. Good evening, everyone. I want to first say that my name is Stephanie Zimmerman, and I am the Democratic nominee for the 56th Assembly District, currently held by Assemblymember Tremaine Wright, who will be in office until December 31st. However, I am available to support community events and certainly support the initiatives that the community board is moving forward with. I am wanting to, as always, thank you all. I don't think that people understand the commitment that members of the community board put in, the time and the effort to ensure that our local government is run efficiently. And this has certainly always been one of those meetings that you enjoy coming to because it is run efficiently. You get the information you need, you find out how you can get involved, and you do good work in community. So just thank you all for your service. I will be, for those of you who haven't been on my website, it's Zinnerman for 56 AD. I will put that information in. But for those of you who know me, my top priorities, of course, are housing, education, healthcare, economic development, and of course, our seniors. So I look forward to this time over the next couple of months, being able to visit your committees. I'm sure as of January, I will not have the time to visit the committees and the general meetings, but I am looking forward to having my staff, hopefully from recommendations from some of you, as we do some hiring post-November, to be a part of these meetings and work together to help enhance and improve our community. So thank you very much for this time. And I look forward to meeting those of you who I have not and working with you all as we move towards recovering from this global pandemic.
Hi, Ms. Zinnerman. Can you give us your email address? Can you share that in the chat?
I will share it in the chat now, yes.
Thank you so much.
That was very, very helpful, inspirational. And I guess the flip side of this coin we're hiding under now is that we're putting everything on our calendar and in our minutes on our website. So people can go back and actually see the video and hear the audio from our meetings. And we also will be doing summaries of those meetings so you can get to the pertinent information easily. So we have some other elected representatives here. And again, I'll call for Mr. Darrell White from the State AG's office.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Ms. George, who I want to publicly apologize. The last time I've seen her, might have been a year ago, and I had promised her that we were going to deliver this booklet here, which is called Smart Seniors, which is my segue to speak to your senior chair, Gail Muhammad, and would like to invite myself to speak to the seniors in regards to being a smart senior. It's a booklet to keep the seniors consumer savvy. And so, Gail, I'm inviting myself to your October 2nd meeting if I can, Madam Chair, and so that I can talk a little bit about the Smart Senior booklet that I promised Ms. George over a year ago that I would deliver to her office. So I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone. I'm sorry for the analogy. But this way I can deliver these to her and then talk to the seniors in Community Board 8 about being a savvy consumer. The other thing is that we're still in a pandemic and there's still fraud going on in the pandemic. And so we still need to find out if people are getting frauded out of or out of certain items. You know, I know at one point the Clorox and the all the PPEs were at a rate or the amount that people were selling them was you know, a little crazy. So we need to know that so that we can stop and cease the companies or even the stores for price gouging you guys, right? Some of the fraud that's going on is on the computers, on your desktop laptops. You know, it's a security issue, and the Office of the Attorney General can help in that respect. Landlord-tenant disputes, the Attorney General's office can help with that. We have a consumer fraud and protection unit that's bar none at the Brooklyn Queens Regional Office in downtown Brooklyn at 55 Hanson Place. I think, Michelle, if I can, you still have my card and number?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So if you need to give that out to anybody after the meeting, please do. We still are at, we're still taking calls. We're not at the office, not yet. My estimation or the estimation of the Attorney General is October, I think, 6th or 7th, that we will be in the office on a rotating basis, not every day, but some days. But you have the number, you can reach us at that number also. And the other thing is, of course, after all this is over, you know, New York State's rent laws has changed. And and there's certain things in the new rent law that you guys should know. And we have that on our website, ag.ny.gov. And so I think I've taken up, you know, enough time. I'm hoping that Gail will invite me to the senior committee meeting. And I thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Darryl. I'll reach out to you later this week.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. Do you know offhand whether or not that booklet is on the AG's website as a resource?
It is. It is, Madam Chair. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll make sure that link gets up on our website as well, and people can access it from there as well. So that's a good thing.
Ms. Tyus?
Yes.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to mention to Ms. Muhammad that Jack Robinson, who volunteers with Invisible Hands, as well as other similar organizations, would like to know if the seniors need assistance with grocery shopping. He has dropped his contact info in the chat. So I just want everyone to be aware, and that question directly to you, Gail Muhammad.
Thank you, Ms. Weatherspoon. So we do have More information coming in from our elected representatives. Kim Robinson is with us from Councilmember Samuel's office. And then we'll also have Ms. Arna Lipkin from Majority Leader Cumbo's office. So Ms. Robinson is going to bring us some information now. Ms. Robinson, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good night, everyone. I bring greetings on behalf of Councilmember Samuel. And I just have two quick announcements. On Saturday, September 19, the council member and Assemblywoman Walker, in conjunction with the farm and the Brooklyn Children Museum and Bright Light Greater Baptist Church, will be hosting a census registration, food, and school supply giveaway. That will be at 1676 Park Place. That's between Ralph and Howard, 12 p.m. sharp. And I will send that information to the board so you can send out. And on Fridays, we're actually going to be having, for the next few Fridays, we're going to do a census starting tomorrow, 12 to 2, at our office, again, with the farm. And again, the census, I know someone talked about it earlier, but we cannot stress the importance of getting the word out and having everyone complete the census. So again, on behalf of the council member, I bring greetings and look forward to amazing 2020 and looking forward to 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Much appreciated. Any questions for Ms. Robinson? Ms. Weatherspoon, any questions for Ms. Robinson that I missed?
There are no more questions for her, but I just wanted to acknowledge that Ms. Zinnerman wants to remind us all of something. Give me 1 second. I just had it. Where are we? Hold on. I'm sorry. Okay. Ms. Zimmerman wants to remind us that today is Request Your Ballot Day. For those who are planning to vote by mail, please request your ballot today at vote.nyc. And it would be great if you could reach out to at least 5 people in your networks after this call and encourage them to request a ballot as well.
Excellent reminder. Excellent suggestion. Thank you. So we have more information coming in from Councilmember Cumbo's office by way of Representative Arna Lipkin. Ms. Lipkin, are you with us? Arna Lipkin, are you on the line? I can't see her. I don't see her.
She's gone. I think she's gone.
Okay. So we have any old business that we need to cover? Ms. George, can you think of anything that we're skipping over?
I just welcome the new board members.
Thank you.
That's part of the new business.
At the orientation. Welcome, new board members. Thank you all. Can we have someone have each one of them say a couple of things, whoever missed the orientation, something like that?
Well, whoever missed the June meeting where they got a chance to introduce themselves.
Right.
Yeah. Great. That'd be great.
I'll call on that because the names slip away from me at the moment.
Well, the new board members know who they are.
Maria Lemaine is the only one that I don't recall being at the June board meeting. I'm not sure if Kimberly Watson was there. Let me just double check the minutes really quickly.
Kimberly Watson was there.
Then just Miss Lemaine.
Hi, Julie. Yes, I was not. I did attend one of the orientations. I did miss the last one.
Well,
But I've been
thank you.
to a number of the meetings over the years, so I do recognize a lot of your faces.
Now we know who you are.
Hi there. Hello, everyone.
I hope you've had a chance to pick a committee or two.
Or 3 or 4.
Excellent, excellent. Very, very good. Very, very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for attending tonight.
Absolutely.
Um,
I don't
so,
think Mr. Mickelstein was there.
Yes, hi. My name's Calvis Mickelsteins.
Yeah, he was there.
Great to be part of this board. I was at the meeting, but
You were there, yeah.
say hi to everyone. I'm really pleased to be joining the Housing Committee and the Seniors Committee.
excellent, excellent. So we will be looking for a schedule to be published by the different committees. As Mr. Witherwax mentioned earlier, they won't be meeting monthly as we've been doing over the past several years, but a schedule will be published. It'll be available on the board website, usually in the board calendar. So, and the calendar has been upgraded to be searchable. So you'll have that as a resource to plan your time and plan to attend and contribute your ideas and suggestions for improvements in this community. Because we have a target on our back. We have too many trains, too many buses. Everybody wants to live here. So we want to make sure that all of the incoming new people can come here comfortably, and we're all going to be comfortable together. So I'm not sure what else we need to cover this evening.
Any public comments? Any public comments, announcements?
Oh, super briefly, this is Sarah. I just wanted to share, I mentioned this, and Ms. George and Ms. Tyus also put out this information earlier, but I just wanted to also bring it up. There have been a lot of illegal evictions happening in the entire borough, despite the fact that there's an eviction moratorium. So I just wanted to share the information about the new Brooklyn Eviction Defense Network. In case you hear about an illegal eviction and want to share this resource with people, or if you want to help out with that network. It's a lot of different groups coming together. The Right to Counsel Coalition was at the origin of it, and yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody has access to that info. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a contact website that you could put in the chat for everybody?
Yeah, I put the email address for it in the chat.
Thank you.
And we're still working on having a website for it because it's so new, but the email address is definitely working.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. White has a question or comment.
Oh, sure.
It's more of a comment. Sarah, if that's the case, then please, if you know of those people, please send them to the or have them make contact with the State Attorney General's office, because that's truly one of the issues that we have in regards to people and tenant landlord issues, and that's key. And if they're doing that, the Attorney General's office needs to know about that so that we can get on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess as a question, what would be the best way to convey that information? Because, you know, there are several every week. What would be the best way to convey? Would it be to you specifically, or?
So the number to call is 718-560-2020. I mean, sorry, 2040.
Okay.
560-2040. At some point, you'll have to, do a complaint form on our website, but at least if you call the office and let us and inform us of what's going on in whatever area it is, then we can actually start the ball rolling, and you can have those people either call or they can do a whole joint thing if it's a whole block, if it's different blocks, different people, whatever the case may be. But it's obviously something that the AG's office should know about, so that we can be all over the landlords that know the law. They know what they're doing. See, that's the they know it. And so since they know it and we don't, we need to find out so we can let them know that we know about you now.
Thanks, Mr. White. Thank you, Ms. Lazar. Most appreciated. Well, we're drawing to the end of this meeting unless there are other issues or questions we need to explore while we're together.
There are no other questions or comments registered at this time.
Well, then I am going to suggest that we close the meeting, and I thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a
Good
good
night,
night,
thank
everyone.
you.
So meeting adjourned.
Betty.
Good night. Stay well.
All right.